Unmute or mute. Unmute. Okay. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, Licky. How are you?
Good morning, Teresa. Very well.
Great. I'm
Yes.
checking if you can hear us clearly and also checking if you are comfortable.
Yes.
And checking also if Mr. Ngatia Gerald, are you able to speak? Are you able to show your video?
Teresa, you know I don't like showing my face a lot. But otherwise, I'm fine.
All right, no problem.
How are you, Ricky?
Very well, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's 10 a.m. I
Yeah.
think participants will start joining anytime soon. And then once they join, we'll be able to kick off. Maybe we could give them a little bit more time. But
Yeah.
for now, we can. I wanted to confirm that you're both comfortable. It will be good when you're speaking to at least share your video so that people can relate with the speaker. Myself, I'll share my screen in case there's any for the presentations that are here, and also for the program and for the poster. So in the meantime, you can also send reminders to your teams, your networks, so that they join us on time.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see if I'm able to share.
Yeah. It's muted.
Okay, are you able to see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes, you're able to see.
Just expand it a little bit. Where is this?
All right, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, let's give a few more minutes, then we can start off in a short while.
Sometimes my network is low, so when you see me cutting off the video, sijali. Network yangu si nzuri sana.
No problem. That is not that should not worry you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe just during the introduction, and then you can
Yeah.
go back to your offline setting. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
And then I lost it. And then I'm like, but then it's fine. So I'm like, I'm just gonna deal with it as it is.
Graciela, could you kindly mute?
Oh shit. All this time I've been. Hi, I'll talk to you. Sorry, I found myself in a meeting and I was not muted. Sama, thanks. Hello.
Hello, Graciela. Thank you for joining us.
About that, I did not know I was not muted.
No problem. Yes. Is Dr. Kagombe in? All right, is Dr. Kagombe in? All right. As our members keep joining in, I think it is 10 minutes past time, and it will be great enough to start. As they continue joining, we'll be able to create room for each and every one of them to actively participate. So to begin with, I would like to invite Vincent Fibanda to start us off, and then thereafter we shall flow with the session. Karibu sana, Vincent, and thank you all for joining us on time.
Thank you, Teresa. So let's start with a word of prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this morning. We thank you for the gift of life as we converge to discuss issues to do with forest and forest economies. We pray that you're going to lead us through this discussion. We also do this in preparation for the International Day of Forests, which will be celebrated on 21st of this month. We pray that we are going to guide all the speakers, all the attendees in this webinar so that we can discuss this, and we also appreciate for the vital nature and also the role that forests play in our economies. Dear Lord, as we start this meeting, as we start this webinar, we pray that we are going to lead us through everything that we're going to discuss as we develop sustainable regulation that are going to protect our forests as a nature that you gave us, oh Lord. As we start this meeting, we start in your name, which is Jesus' name I do pray and believe. Amen. So as we start this meeting, just allow me to lay down a few house rules so that we can have a seamless session. So also take this opportunity to introduce myself. This is Vincent Fibanda from East African Wildlife Society. Just to let everyone that, just make sure that your microphone is muted. Not unless you want to speak, you'll be able to raise your hand and our moderators will be able to allow you to speak. Also, just to notify you that let's utilize the chat box to raise our questions and our concern, our inquiries. Then our moderators will be able to escalate the question to the speakers and we'll be able to get a response. Also, just to let all the participants know that we will have a plenary session where all participants will have an opportunity to ask questions and engage with the speakers directly. Then also just to allow and also just to let know all the participants that we will have a seamless session, and in case you have any question you can post it in the chat box, and you can also take this opportunity to introduce yourself in the chat box and also the organization you are representing here. Otherwise, thank you very much and I wish you all the best in this discussion. Thank you. Back to you, Teresa.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And members, my name is Teresa Aoko. I am the coordinator, Kenya Forest Working Group. I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you all to our webinar today as we celebrate International Day of Forests 2026. The theme of our webinar is Forest Economies in Action, Why Strong Participatory Forest Management Regulations Matter. We are linking this process with the recent call by the State Department of Forestry for members to submit memoranda on the regulatory impact statement for the draft conservation and management participation in sustainable forest management regulations 2025. As we all know, community participation, stakeholder participation in forest conservation and management is very crucial, and this has a direct role in our forest economies. By enabling stakeholders to actively participate in sustainable forest management, then we are able to see the economic benefits of our forest. Therefore, we saw the need to not only link the process of understanding the RIS and sharing our comments, but also to link it to the International Day of Forest theme to understand why it is crucial for stakeholders to participate in forest management and why, therefore, these regulations must work for stakeholders so that we can benefit as a country economically from our forests. We know that our forests are critical sources of livelihoods for communities and households across Kenya. They support income, food security, climate resilience, biodiversity, water catchment and flows, among many others. So as our country marks the International Day of Forests under the theme of forest economies, this webinar will explore how participatory forest management can also unlock sustainable and inclusive economic opportunities for local communities and also for stakeholders. We'll also look into the RIS so that our comments can ensure that the final framework is going to be practical, inclusive, and responsive to our stakeholder needs. We want an environment where this process is seamless, is collaborative, so that together with the government, we are able to enjoy the economic benefit of our forests. In our session today, we will start off. I hope you can see my screen. In our session today, are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, you
Great.
can see it.
Thank you. So in our session today, if Dr. Kagombe is in, we'll have opening remarks from the Kenya Forest Working Group Management Committee. Thereafter, we are going to unpack the draft Forest Conservation and Management, Participation in Sustainable Forest Management Regulations 2025 and RIS. We have the privilege of having Mr. Liki Ritei, who is the head of policy at State Department for Forestry, and we are grateful that he has been able to create time for this. It's important that we have the technical perspective and background so that our comments are meaningful and are able to influence the process in such a way that the needs of stakeholders are met. Then we'll have our plenary session where you could members can share their questions and any other comments. So far, we have members who have already shared comments on the RIS. We could as well raise them on plenary. And if there are any questions that need clarification as well, we could also raise them here. This is what we are going to combine together as a secretariat and share with the State Department of Forestry for incorporation. Then we'll have contributions of participatory forest management to economies, looking at the successes and limitations. What are the successes we've achieved so far? What are still the barriers or the bottlenecks that are preventing this process from maximizing the potential it has in contributing to our economy? Then we'll also have lived examples of economic benefits of forest, and this is a plenary session. We have participants who are ready to share how from their lived experience, how they're economically benefiting from our forests. Lucky Kazungo is one of them, and it will also be open to any other person who feels they want or they have a story or a testimony to share. Then we'll also have a space for updates from members. We here really want to hear vitu kwa ground, what's really happening on the ground, what are some of the issues that require attention from the Secretariat, and how can we address this issue to get issues together. We'll then agree on the key recommendations and the next steps and close. This is our session for today, and I welcome you all once again. As you write, sorry. As you write your names on the chat, also tell us if you were a forest in Kenya, which forest would you be and why? If I were a forest in Kenya, I would be Mount Kulal Forest. It is one of the most pristine forests in Kenya. It is managed by the community in Mount Kulal. Mount Kulal is in Marsabit County, and it is a forest in like the middle of the desert. So it is well managed, it is very pristine, and it is really a place to behold. If I were a forest in Kenya, I will be Mount Kulal Forest. So in the chat box, as you introduce yourself, tell us also which forests you have in your community, or even which forests you would be if you were to be a forest. Thank you very much, and I take this opportunity to invite Dr. Kagombe if he's in.
Good
Kagombe,
morning.
have you joined us? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah,
Good
I want
morning, Dr.
to welcome you all to this webinar, very important webinar where we are talking of regulatory impact assessment on participatory forest management regulations. And we appreciate where we are coming from. As a Kenya Forest Working Group, we have worked with the communities all this time to ensure that they take their rightful role in forest conservation and management. And as we talk now, we are talking of having over 300 CFAs which are registered, and a lot of forests which are in various stages of implementation of PFM. Most of them are going to the second tier of forest management plans and forest management regulations agreement. And for a long time, there has been that issue of whether the communities are getting meaningful benefits. And it's good to mention that consideration is beneficiary regulations. I also like to mention before I delve into the issue of the regulation at hand, that we appreciate the ministry, what they are doing. We are making good progress. Just last week, we were presenting the amendment to the FCMA 2016 to the Parliamentary Committee. And so you expect any time the amendment may go through the second reading, and it's likely to be enacted soon. We hope that this process will on the regulations. They are now, what is remaining is this regulatory impact assessment. Then it will go to the relevant government parliamentary committee for consideration. It's good to mention that the participatory forest management regulations is a more expanded stakeholders and in forest management, given things like a joint management agreement, special use license, they are all now contained in this regulation, various mode of that we look at it in a bigger scope, although
Dr. we lost you. Is it your network?
okay. I believe that we shall be able to get a good input. Unfortunately, I'm in the very chair in a board meeting for a school where I'm the chair. So I will not be, and then the networking is not so good. So you can see there's some bit of disruption, but I appreciate there are also members of the management team who are with us, and they will be able to guide you even as you do the discussion. With this, I want to say welcome, and let's have this contribution. They are welcome, and we pray that this year we will have the amendment
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daktari, for the opening remarks. I would like to take this opportunity to invite Mr. Liki Ritei, State Department of Forestry, to take us through. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Teresa. I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Liki Ritei. I'm the head of policy, research, and knowledge management in the State Department for Forestry. And I want to thank you for inviting the State Department to this webinar, where we are going to give you some insights on the regulatory impact statement for the sustainable forest management regulations. And I'll begin by saying that it is quite timely, given that, like you had mentioned earlier, that this week, actually, on 21st of March, we are celebrating the International Day of Forests. And the theme is about forest and economies, and the earlier speakers have alluded to the significance of forests to our economy, and there has been a series of activities that have been happening in the course of this week that will culminate in the big event that will be in Maragoli Hills, that's in Viga County, where the chief guest will be the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi. So this particular session is coming in a very timely manner, where we're discussing measures that we're working towards ensuring that our communities actually benefit from our forest, and also participate in the management and conservation of our forests. So I'll begin by mentioning that as a State Department, we were established through Executive Order number 1 of 2023 that was revised in 2025, with a mandate of developing policies, legal and regulatory reforms for promoting sustainable forest management, as well as mitigating climate change. And we've been in the process of carrying out these regulatory reforms. And like Dr. Kagomba has mentioned, there's an amendment that is currently in Parliament on the Forest Conservation and Management Act 2016. And we also have a series of regulations that we have developed. One is one on participation in sustainable forest management being one of them. And I just want to take you through this particular presentation. I'll have two presentations, just one PowerPoint to give the highlight of the process towards the development of this particular regulation. And then the other one will be specific to the regulatory impact statement that was developed for this particular regulation. So allow me to go to the next slide. That is on the outline. So this particular presentation, I'll be just giving you the basis for this particular, where these particular regulations are anchored in law. Just a quick highlight of the objective, the purpose, and its application. I think for those of us who already interacted with this particular regulation during the public participation, you must have you must be aware of the intents of this particular regulation. And then thirdly, we'll look at the regulatory impact assessment that was done to this regulation that now gave birth to the regulatory impact statement that we'll be looking at. So can you go to the next slide, please? So as far as this participation in sustainable forest management regulations are concerned, when you look at the Forest Conservation and Management Act Cap 385. Section 71 provides that the Cabinet Secretary, on the recommendation of the Board of the Service, may make regulations with respect to any matter which is necessary or expedient to be prescribed for carrying out or giving effect to the FCMA Act. Now, when you look at subsection 2D and F, they provide that the Cabinet Secretary may make regulations that will prescribe measures to enhance community participation in conservation and management of forests, and also prescribing measures and mechanisms for participatory forest management agreements with other stakeholders and lead agencies. So, so this is just. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so
Mondo, I kindly mute. Sorry, Mondo, I kindly mute your mic. Thank you.
So I was saying that under that section 71 of the Act, you'll find that there are actually around 21 regulations that have been provided for development. And so far, we've been able to do 8 of them. And actually, this one on participation in sustainable forest management is just one of the 8 that we are currently working on. And as it is, you are aware that the regulation has gone through different stages, including even public participation. And now we are at a point where we have developed the regulatory impact statement, which we are subjecting now to public participation, so that now we can receive comments and incorporate before now we finalize on the regulations and submit them to Parliament. So that is the basis for this regulation. Can you proceed to the next slide? So these regulations, please, can you proceed to the next slide? These regulations apply in the sustainable management of public forest. They can also apply, can be applied to by the county governments in the management of community forests. And lastly, they can also be applied in the management of provisional forests that can be declared under Section 35 of the Forest Conservation and Management Act. Can you proceed to the next slide, please? So, can you proceed to the next in object and purpose? So the purpose for this regulation is to provide for a procedure for involving the community and other stakeholders in the participation of sustainable forest management, and the manner in which community forest association may exercise the right or privilege that is conferred upon them by the Forest Conservation and Management Act. Next slide. So provisions of the regulations, I think I've mentioned that for those of us who've interacted with this particular regulation, you are aware that it provides for community participation due to the formation of CFS, and that the CFS can apply to the Kenya Forest Service for them to participate in the management and conservation of public forests. And it also defines which area and a forest where the CFS can participate in, where it is specific that it talks about one forestation or at least a block or individual blocks within the jurisdiction of one particular forestation. Can you go to the next slide, please? It also provides for what is expected of the approved CFA, the requirement for the development of a forest management plan, as well as forest management agreements, and the terms and conditions for which that management agreement can be terminated or withdrawn. The regulation also provide for user rights under the community forest agreement, and also modalities for issuance of permits and the licenses for the association. Can you go to the next slide? So now I've mentioned that we've already concluded on the public participation for the regulations, and the next step that was expected of us was to carry out a regulatory impact assessment, which is a requirement of the Statutory Instruments Act of 2023, which provides a comprehensive regime for making scrutiny, publication, and operation of statutory instruments. So the regulation, the Act, the Statutory Instruments Act, provides that before any regulatory making authority makes a statutory instrument where the proposed instrument is likely to have a direct or substantial effect on business or restrict competition, the regulation making authority shall make appropriate consultations with persons who are likely to be affected by the proposed instrument. So I think in line with this, there was a Gazette notice that was published. That is Gazette notice number 2582, volume 128, where a notice of this regulatory impact statement was gazetted, and the same printed in the public mass media for invitation comments was 19th of March 2026, which is tomorrow. So that is why we are here today, to have a look at this particular regulatory impact statement that was developed as a result of the impact assessment that was carried out on this particular regulation, so that now the regulated community can be able to give views on those likely impacts that the regulation will have on them. So can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide. Yes, so I've mentioned that it's a requirement that there has to be public consultations, so that entities that could be interested will be able to give their views and give submissions on the regulatory impact statement that has been put out there for input. Can you go to the next? So, the Statutory Instruments Act of 2013 provides that you have to give proof of sufficient public consultation through an explanatory memorandum, and that you have to develop a regulatory impact statement. And that is what I want to present in the next few minutes. Can you go to the next? And this particular regulatory impact statement has a number of provisions, and one is that it provides a statement of the objectives of the proposed legislation, the reasons for them, a statement explaining the effect of the proposed legislation, including the case of a proposed legislation which is to amend an existing statutory instrument, a statement of other practicable means of achieving those objectives, including other regulatory as well as non-regulatory options. Then number 4, it provides an assessment of the costs and benefits of the proposed statutory rule and of any other practicable means of achieving the same objectives. Then number 5 is the reasons why the other means are not appropriate, and any other matter specified by the guidelines, as well as a draft copy of the proposed statutory rule. So with that, I think I wish to take us now directly to the regulatory impact statement. And I wish to request that you project the document as it is, so that at least the members will be able to appreciate, because I felt that I should not compress it into a PowerPoint, so that we may be able to see what has been captured in terms of even now the options that are available, and why we are not going for those options, other options that we wish maybe we feel could have been explored, and that we had to use this route of developing this particular regulation. So Teresa, please, I request that we have that particular RIS. So members, I think at this point, let me just take you through the highlights of this particular regulatory impact statement on the proposed forest conservation and management, participation in sustainable forest management regulations 2025, which was prepared by the State Ministry of Environment, Climate Change, Forestry, and Forestry, in line with Section 6 and 7 of the Statutory Instruments Act, CAP 2A. So I've mentioned that this particular regulatory impact statement has been prepared as a requirement of the Statutory Instruments Act, which requires that we prepare an impact statement on the cost implication of the regulation. So just as an introduction, the regulations on participation in sustainable forest management is anchored in the Forest Conservation and Management Act, like I had mentioned earlier, to provide a framework for community participation in the management of public forests. And I had also mentioned that Section 71(1) of the FCMA empowers the Cabinet Secretary to make regulations. And this is just one of the regulations that has been provided for amongst the 21 that I had mentioned earlier. So these regulations are likely to result in the imposition of significant cost to the community, and that's why we needed this particular regulatory impact statement. So for the objectives and reason for the proposed regulations, we know that the forest play a very critical role for this particular country. However, we know that there are challenges that we continue to face as a country in as far as sustainable forest management is concerned, including issues to do with encroachment, deforestation, illegal logging, and even poor or weak participation of the communities, as well as weak enforcement of forest laws. So this particular regulation seeks to give further effect to, just please go down to, scroll down to the, just the last part of the page 1. I mean, sorry, the last sentence, yes. So the proposed regulations on participation in sustainable forest management, they give effect to Part 5 of the Forest Conservation and Management Act, which contains elaborate provisions for community participation in forest conservation. It also seeks to strengthen national commitments to environmental sustainability and biodiversity conservation, and provide a legal and policy framework for engaging local communities and other stakeholders in forest management. Then it also seeks to support the government agenda in terms of Vision 2030 and the bottom-up economic transformation agenda and international obligations that we signed up for as a country. So specifically, these objectives provide for the procedure for involving the community and other stakeholders in the participation of sustainable forest management, and 2, the manner in which the community forest associations may exercise a right or privilege conferred upon them under the FCMA. So these particular regulations, they align with quite a number of multilateral environmental agreements, like the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement. They also consistent and in line with the Convention on Biological Diversity. They also seek to advance our commitment to the United Nations Convention on combating desertification. Other provisions include even the Ramsar Convention on Wetlands, as well as the Convention on International Trade on Endangered Species of wild fauna and flora, that is CITES. So basically, the regulation is in line with what we've committed as a country to in terms of international obligations. So this particular regulation seeks to operationalize Kenya's commitments under the multilateral environmental agreements by localizing their principles through community participation, sustainability, and equity. So let's look at the situational and legal analysis and rationale for the regulations. So I may not really delve into the current situation in the forest sector. I think we can have a look at it on our own. But now, as far as the legal and policy framework is concerned, is that we have the Forest Conservation and Management Act, that is CAP 385, as well as the provisions of the constitutions under Article 42, 69, and 174, where we have Article 42 requiring that it's a right for us to live in a clean environment, and 69 also obligates us to issues to do with environmental protection. So we also have other support policy frameworks like the forest policy, as well as the MCA, which is the Environmental Management and Coordination Act, as well as other documents like the county integrated development plans for the respective counties. So what is the contribution of this new regulation? I hope we are together. I'm at page 4 now. Contribution of the regulations. The regulations are designed to fill the current legal and operational gaps and strengthen the framework for community participation. The proposed regulations will result into functional enforceable system, ensuring that community participation is not only recognized but effectively practiced. I hope I'm not too fast. Hello.
Yes, you are in good space, Liki.
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, because I'm trying to save time so that at least you can dwell now on the options down there, because I think that's where the gist of the matter is. So,
sure.
So I was saying that now this particular regulations, the contribution is that you will find that there are gaps because the FCMA provides for community participation in a very broad perspective. So, but now the specifics are now what this regulation is supposed to address now, in as far as what the FCMA provided for. So now laws and that impact on community participation. One is that we have the Constitution of Kenya that you look at Article 42, I've mentioned that it provides that every person has a right to a clean and healthy environment. Article 69 obligates the state to encourage public participation in environment management and conservation, and provide that every person has a right and duty to cooperate with the state organs in protecting and conserving the environment. And then we have the Forest Conservation and Management Act, which is the main framework for forest governance. And the Act provides for establishment of community forest associations as vehicles for community participation. And Section 4952 also provides that communities can enter into agreements with the Kenya Forest Service for participatory forest management. Then the MCA also provides a broad framework for environmental governance. When you look at the County Government Act, there's a very strong element of citizen participation and public participation in governance, and I think that has been that's well pronounced in the County Government Act. And there are also other frameworks, including policies and laws related to public participation, that has been developed both nationally and at county level. And then we also have the Land Act, specifically the Community Land Act. And here we must understand that the provisions of the types of land in the country aligns with the types of forests that we have in this country. And under the Community Land Act, you'll find that forests can also fall under that. So we have community forests that are managed by the community or by the county government on behalf of the community, as provided for in the Act. So now, I had mentioned that now this particular regulatory impact statement, or the assessment for that matter, is meant to weigh the options, because it provides that now if it has a cost implication, have we tried to explore other options of meeting the requirements of this particular regulation without necessarily having to develop these particular regulations. And this is at this point that we find that now those particular options have been explored, and why they've not been effective reasons have been provided for under the assessment. So as just an introduction, I'll state that this particular section identifies alternative non-regulatory and regulatory approaches that could equally enhance community participation, strengthen ownership, and ensure sustainable use of forest resources, and generally achieve similar objectives as those of these particular proposed regulations. It also explores why these available alternative approaches meant to enhance community participation may not be ideal or appropriate in helping achieve this particular objective, the particular objectives of this proposed regulations. So it is noted that while the draft regulations are one pathway to achieving sustainable forest management, alternative approaches could also meet the intended objectives. These alternatives vary in terms of legal enforceability, administrative burden, impact on stakeholders, as has been highlighted in the subsequent statements. So what are these options that we are looking at? One is legislation that is developed at the county level. So you'll find that the first schedule of the Constitution of Kenya provides that county governments will enact their own laws governing community forest. This approach will have the advantage of enabling and facilitating localized approaches responsive to county-specific ecological social realities. However, multiple county legislation will lead to fragmentation, inconsistency, and enforcement challenges. The governmental coordination will be complex and costly. The sector requires uniformity of action across the public for better outcomes. So that is why this particular option may not be feasible. Then non-regulatory options include strengthened administrative guidelines. So this one will entail issuance of guidelines through the Kenya Forest Service, circulars and administrative directives that will provide clarity on community forest associations formation, licensing, and private sector participation. The approach, however, lacks strong legal backing, limiting the enforceability of the objectives. It has the advantage of its implementation and adaptability to emerging issues. This option, however, lacks statutory authority. It cannot entail imposition of penalties or obligations. Enforcement will depend on goodwill rather than the legal duty. Therefore, it's unsuitable as a standalone mechanism because it lacks enforceability and may suffer consistency issues across administrative regimes. Then another non-regulatory option is PPPs, and this will encourage contractual partnerships between the Kenya Forest Service, community forest associations, and the private investors for joint forest management, reforestation, and eco-enterprises. This has a great potential to mobilize private capital and expertise into the sector. It also encourages shared responsibility with the private sector. However, on the downside, this approach cannot operate without regulatory safeguards and hence will still need a regulatory framework to be implemented and to govern the private sector players operating under it. Again, PPPs have potential to create inequities in benefit sharing, marginalize communities, and may fail to adequately protect public interest in forest conservation and management. Therefore, the approach will only be effective if anchored in a clear regulatory framework defining rights, obligations, and benefit sharing. Then number 3 is an incentive-based and market approaches. This will involve the introduction of financial incentives, tax rebates, or payments for ecosystem services to reward communities and enterprises engaged in sustainable forest practices. The advantage is that it has potential to encourage voluntary compliance and innovation. However, it may prove unsustainable in the long term. Such measures are historically dependent on donor and exchequer support. It could be difficult to monitor for compliance, fairness, and integrity. It can be applied as a valuable complementary regulatory approach, but not sufficient on its own. The fourth one is on self-regulation by CFS and user groups. This will operate by allowing community forest associations to develop internal codes of conduct, standards, and management rules to guide forest use and conservation. It has the advantage of enhancing community ownership and reduce state administrative burden. However, the downside is that its success will depend on voluntary compliance by a community forest association. Also, community forest associations lack the technical, legal, and financial capacity to enforce rules or resolve conflict. However, this option may be useful as a supplementary governance tool, but on its own, it may not stand. Now, the other non-regulatory intervention could be cultural, education, and traditional system. This will leverage on community customs, sacred groves, taboos, religious institutions, and public education platforms to promote forest stewardship. There's the advantage of ability to build an existing social norms and values and enhance moral legitimacy. However, the major weakness lies in the informal and informed nature. It has the potential to exclude marginalized groups. It also lacks reliable, predetermined enforceability mechanism. Furthermore, due to the different cultural and tradition existing in this republic, this option may be effective only in localized contexts, but wholly unsuitable as a national regulatory substitute. Another option is a collaborative partnership and corporate social responsibility initiatives. This involves engaging public benefits organizations, CBOs, county governments, and private sector entities in co-management and restoration projects under corporate social responsibility or donor programs. It is useful in the mobilization of external resources and technical support. As an option to manage continuous and long-term objectives, it suffers the weakness of the fact that initiatives under it are often project-based, short-term, and donor-dependent. It lacks continuity and regulatory oversight. It may serve as a complementary mechanism, but it is unsustainable as the main governance mechanism. Another one is alternative livelihoods and renewable energy promotion. This option will entail promoting agroforestry, ecotourism, beekeeping, mushroom cultivation, among others. It is critical as it addresses the root causes of deforestation by improving the livelihoods of the local population, who then have no pressure to encroach on them or to exploit forest resources as a means of living. However, this option will require significant investment, capacity building, market access, benefits may not be equitably shared without a legal basis. Hence, while it is critical for long-term sustainability, it must operate within the framework of regulations. And then using the current provisions of the Act providing for joint management, yes, the Forest Conservation and Management Act provides for participation in sustainable forest management. However, you'll find that the Act recognizes the role of communities and CFS in sustainable forest management, empowering them to enter into management agreements with KFS. This leaves room for flexibility and allows adaptive and context-specific arrangements without being constrained by regulatory requirements. Using the provisions of the Act will help avoid regulatory burden. Additional regulations could increase administrative cost, procedural complexity, and delays in approval of community management plans. Relying on the Act prevents fragmentation of legal interpretation and reduces the risk of conflicting provisions between the Act and the subsidiary legislation. However, enacting the regulations is still necessary because the Act provides only broad principles and lacks the necessary procedural details to ensure effective, uniform, and accountable community participation. The regulations will provide operational clarity by, among others, specifying the procedures for registration, recognition, and oversight of CFS, ensuring consistent standards nationwide. The detailed regulations will set out criteria for benefit sharing, dispute resolution, and non-financial, minimizing abuse and elite capture. The last intervention is a do nothing or take no action option. That is the business as usual scenario. Under this, the government would refrain from developing any new subsidiary legislation and continue to rely solely on the FCMA, alongside existing administrative guidelines, ministerial circulars, and community-level arrangements, as well as traditional practices of the local communities. This option avoids additional regulatory burden by preventing the creation of new procedures and paperwork that could increase cost, delay approval of management plans, or discourage participation. It also helps maintain legal consistency, as relying solely on the current Act minimizes the risk of conflicting interpretations. However, this option will simply perpetuate existing implementation weaknesses. The Act only provides broad policy principles and lacks detailed procedural guidance for registration, recognition, benefit sharing, and oversight of community associations. In the absence of binding regulations, the process remains highly discretionary and uneven across counties and forest stations. This has led to inconsistencies, limited accountability, and vulnerability to elite capture or misuse of benefits. This option will lack means of uniform standards or enforceable mechanism for ensuring transparency, fairness, and sustainability in community participation. It will not facilitate the achievement of the desired policy outcome of equitable, effective and accountable community participation in forest management. So now for the cost benefit analysis of the regulations. Now we've had a look at now those particular options, and we've been able to identify the various weaknesses and why they may not be able to be the options to this particular regulation. That's why we feel like we still need this particular regulation in place. So for the cost benefit analysis, the proposed regulations promises the following benefits upon implementation. That is poverty reduction, implementation of the regulations to enable communities to generate incomes from sustainable forest-based enterprises. I think this already is happening, but not in a very structured manner. Local economic development, that's through creation of jobs and value addition of forest products. Cost sharing, that is, with that one will reduce the burden of the government in terms of forest management. And then there is the potential to increase forestry GDP contribution. Currently, we are talking of 3.6% contribution to the GDP. Although this particular figure, we feel like it's a really a modest figure compared to the kind of benefits that we get from forest. And then currently, the National Treasury sets aside about 2.7 billion as an expenditure on reforestation. With fully realized community involvement in the management of forest, it is reckoned that the National Treasury will make a saving of similar amount. Economic costs. The regulations are bound to entail higher compliance costs, including those relating to environmental bonds, documentation, among others. The other costs will entail costs relating to monitoring and enforcement costs for KFS. Social benefits. There will be increased rural employment and incomes, empowerment of local communities by giving the local people decision-making roles in forest governance, minimization or eradication of conflict and enhancement of cooperation, as the involvement of local communities will build trust between the government agencies, communities, and other stakeholders. And then preservation of cultural values due to engagement of the people who are then better enabled to protect their traditional knowledge, sacred sites, and customary forest uses, like the case of the Kaya forest at the coast. And then improve livelihoods and equity, as the participation of the people will ensure fair access to forest benefits and involvement of marginalized groups, as well as the formation of community organizations that will act as vehicles for social mobilization, rural development, amongst others. Social costs, but the impact of the regulations will help build ownership. Am I too fast? Hello?
No,
Yes,
no, carry
okay?
on.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm trying to
yes,
save time because I'm sure that I've spent more than my allocated time.
yes, I think
So,
we are in the tail end.
yes. So while the impact of the regulations can help build ownership and reduce illegal activities through shared responsibility, its biggest risk is elite capture and weak organizational capacity that will afflict such initiatives to the detriment of the genuine community participation in forest management. So for environmental benefits, the regulations will help in conservation of forest and biodiversity by encouraging local communities to protect natural habitats, wildlife, and tree cover. It will facilitate sustainable use of forest governance, forest resources by promoting harvesting practices that maintain forest productivity and health. It will also prevent deforestation, land degradation by reducing unsustainable exploitation through local stewardship. And then it will also assist in the restoration of degraded forests through the involvement of communities in tree planting, soil conservation, and watershed protection. For the cost to the environment, the implementation of the regulations will entail risk of soil degradation and agrochemical use, as well as habitat disturbance if not properly managed. So for the administrative benefits, one is that it will improve clarity and uniformity of procedures as the regulation seeks to standardize the application, approval, and monitoring processes for CFS nationwide. It will reduce administrative discretion and corruption risk owing to the clear procedural rules. It will also strengthen record keeping and information management as the regulation seeks to operationalize the reporting requirements of the Act, which mandates the KFS to provide an updated record of all approved CFS. It will also enhance coordination between the national and the county institutions that will reduce overlap and administrative conflict. And there'll also be predictable enforcement and compliance mechanisms as the regulations specify sanctions, suspension, and appeal procedures, leaving administrators a predictable pathway for action instead of ad hoc decisions. And lastly, to provide for administrative efficiency and cost savings owing to standardized templates for application. As you'll find in the schedule, there are different templates for the different applications that may be carried out within the Act. So the cost that are associated with the administration of this particular regulation is that there'll be costs relating to sensitization and buying campaigns for the communities to understand and be able to accept the regulations. There will also be aspects of negotiations and signing of the agreements and the costs that are related to that one. Boundary demarcation, surveying, and mapping forest areas allocated to specific CFS. And then there'll also be costs associated with revenue tracking, auditing, and dispute resolution. And then there'll be also investment in terms of technology. We're talking about GIS, we're talking about IT system and equipment for mapping, amongst others. So what are the assumptions that inform the cost-benefit analysis? The cost-benefit analysis in this section is premised on a number of underlying assumptions about the economic circumstances, institutional capacity, environmental situations, and social realities. Yes. The assumptions, if they were to remain constant, will make the estimated benefits and cost feasible. Economic assumptions include functioning markets for forest products, services, and availability of investment and enterprise skills, effective cost sharing and fiscal substitution, stable macroeconomic environment. The social impacts assumptions include genuine and equitable community participation, effective community governance structures, social cohesion and trust in institutions, and successful capacity building and awareness programs. Environmental assumptions include community stewardship will lead to improved conservation, adherence to sustainable practices by the community's existence of proper monitoring and enforcement mechanisms, and climate and ecological conditions remaining relatively stable. Administrative and institutional assumptions include effectiveness of the institutional coordination, adequate funding and human resources, functioning digital and record-keeping systems, stakeholder compliance and cooperation. In summary, the realization of projected benefits will also depend on addressing risks such as elite capture, weak enforcement, and insufficient funding. A robust implementation monitoring framework will therefore be essential to validate and sustain these assumptions over time. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is the outline of our regulatory impact assessment and statement for that matter. At this point, I think I want to end this particular presentation, and I want to say thank you for your patience. It's been quite a long document, but I thought I should just present as it is so that you may be able to appreciate the content of this particular regulatory impact statement. So thank you very much, and I welcome the moderator so that we can go to the next session towards maybe the plenary and all that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liki, for taking us through the RIS and having participated in the drafting of this document. I want to invite members to raise any questions they may have towards you with regards to the RIS, and also they can share their comments in terms of what they think has not been captured and or any other recommendations they have that could go into the comments that have already been received. So I'll give you members the first floor so that you can raise your comments and questions. Feel free to unmute and just ask Liki directly the clarification you may need. Any comments or questions on the RIS?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Good morning, everybody. Now, my question is on the elite capture. We have had very good documents which have actually been presented in the past. We have also seen how CFS have struggled. We also appreciate the fact that KFS do realize that CFS have a role to play, and especially when there is work to do. But then when it comes to what you call elite capture, which I would actually improve to be state capture, then things work that make the things that are actually done make the CFAs fail to actually appreciate what they have done in the past. How are we going to deal with this?
Thank you, Chris. Liki, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you for that comment, Mr. Chris, and I appreciate the fact that that aspect, you call it state capture, because within the document is captured as elite capture. It might be the same and one thing, and it has been noted that it is really a gray area that might be subject to abuse. And I know the provision of the regulations is that the element of community participation requires that the involvement of the community is at the very lowest level. So if we are going to live by that particular spirit, then we know who are our communities, who are the forest adjacent communities, and with that, I think we'll be able to address any such challenges that may arise relating to elite capture, because I think the elite might be, I will not imagine that, of course, the elite, of course, still people within the communities, but who are the actual people who are protecting this particular forest, who are the people who are living next to this particular forest, I think we know them. So basically, I feel like if really we implement these particular regulations in the spirit that is meant to, we'll be able to really address this particular challenge. But I wish that the issue that you've raised about elite capture should also come out very clearly even in your comments, so that at least even as we go to now the inclusion of this particular comments within these particular documents, then we are able to also synthesize it further than the kind of response that I have already given. Thank you.
Thank you for the response. Any other question, members? Please feel free to unmute and ask Liki your question.
Maybe I want to go back to Chris. Did he have any proposal of any particular nature that you wanted to maybe ask to indulge in, or do you feel like that discussion ends there?
Well, maybe going by facts, because we have several CFAs, and actually when you listen to them, they are disappointed in most areas. You look at the work that they've done, they've actually waited for activities to be done well and to be supported by the government. And here I mean KFS in specific terms. So this is one thing that is actually in the public domain, that the CFAs feel neglected, they feel frustrated, they are not really looked at as an organization that could help. And remember, they represent the community, the voice of the community. When we are talking about cultural activities, when we are talking about development, whether it is value chains within the forest department or within the forestry, then it is them. They will actually come up with what the community is thinking. But when you don't have a voice, when you're not looked at as somebody, then you feel like you better keep quiet with what you have. So this is why I'm saying, although I know there are elites amongst the CFAs who are also prone to abuse, but then how would then the CFA that is working deal with a situation where there is such captures, where the state is not listening, where KFS is not listening, where everybody is not listening? When you have the money, you are everything. That's my concern.
Thank you, Liki. And just to add on the same comment, thank you, Chris. And to add on the same comment with regards to elite capture, there's, apart from it being at the state level, there's also the risk for vulnerable groups, and specifically women, youth, and the landless. And so we are suggesting that if there could be mandatory quotas and a clear selection criteria for plot allocation that will ensure equity in terms of distribution and even safeguarding these vulnerable groups. So while elite capture could also be at the level of state where the CFS are held hostage by KFS, there's also the element where at the local or the community level, the vulnerable groups such as women, the youth, and those who will not in any way possibly own land could risk missing out in this entire processes. So while the regulations state that they will be able to allocate CFAs specific quotas for management, then there is need further, the RIS should also see into how these quotas will be allocated, or which selection criteria will be used to ensure that there is equity in allocation of these quotas, so that even the youth and women can benefit. So that could be one of our recommendations. And on state capture in terms of KFS, I think as a working group, we would want to see more and more collaborative and participatory dialogues rather than imposed and top-bottom approaches, but rather more bottom-up approaches in terms of collaboration with the relevant agencies. Vicky, any comment on that?
Yes, thank you, Teresa. I've taken your comments very positively, and I'm looking forward that you'll be able to make submissions on the same, so that we can see then how best we can incorporate those particular gaps that have been noted, because I'm sure that those are lived experiences. But it also goes beyond actually now the regulations, because you find that now when you look at even the involvement in terms of now the communities, as far as maybe the formation of CFS and the like, that's something that is very voluntary. And sometimes you find that Mr. Chris has mentioned about the issues to do with the existence of even the elites within the CFA. Mm-hmm. And you find that now when it comes to issues to do with technology uptake, you see now ordinarily you find that there's a very wide continuum in terms of there's those people who are early adopters and those ones who are a bit slow. And within these particular people who are slow or what you call laggards, you find that actually this band of people within the vulnerables, they fall under that particular category. So you find that now these people have moved ahead and these people have been left behind. So it also calls for us to really do even as grassroots organization to do a lot of capacity building and create awareness for the communities, especially even the vulnerables, on why they should actually be able to be involved even in issues to do with forest conservation and management, and be able to also even benefit from what is accrued from now this particular process of them being involved in conservation. So basically, that is what I wish to say, that we really also wish to see at least all of us actually doing lots of sensitization and capacity building, especially amongst the vulnerables within these particular communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Liki. Any other question, members? And just before we take again comments from the members, there are also other aspects that need attention, and the RIS may not have captured that. In terms of security of tenure and investment, the current minimum for the PFM plans is around 5 years. Renewable, and we are looking at how this time limit may incentivize long-term conservation and sustainable enterprises, because the process of restoration is usually ongoing, and at no particular point and moment to say you have completely restored and you do not need any other interventions. So is it possible then that to have meaningful forest entrepreneurship, CFAs may require longer term stable periods, say a minimum of 10 to 20 years, to justify their labor and investment, given that these trees also take very long to mature, and for them to even fully benefit from these processes, the forest management agreements should therefore consider the considerable amount of time that it will take to really invest in forest entrepreneurship. So in this case, we would propose a minimum of 10 to 20 years. And then secondly is clarity on benefit sharing, especially cost benefit sharing ratios. We know that there will be and we are looking forward to the benefit sharing regulations as well, and the RIS. And then again, we are saying that there should not be ambiguity in terms of what should be defined as a minimum percentage of revenue that should remain with CFAs. And of course, one of the discussions currently is, if all the revenue goes to eCitizen, then how does it come back to the CFA? And also, how then should CFAs benefit economically if there's not a defined minimum percentage that should go? And then lastly, we are looking at issues to do with the financial implications, as the RIS has also mentioned, that these regulations could impose significant costs. But then how will this be mitigated, considering that some of the application and administrative costs could be really high and may actually marginalize those CFAs that are already or specifically excluded or marginalized. So how will this RIS mitigate? Could there be waivers for CFAs in this application fees, administrative costs, to make it less financially burdening for them? maybe Liki, you could respond to those, and then if there's any other question on the floor, members can also have the last chance to share, and then we can move to the next session.
Okay, thank you for those reactions. I think I'll begin with security of tenure because in the regulations, I think it provides for around 5 years, just of 5 years. And I also agree with you that really for any meaningful conservation interventions to have yielded any fruits, of course, 5 years is a very short time. So I think it is one recommendation for consideration of a longer term of at least maybe we talked about 10 years or more. So I think I'm fully in agreement, but I hope that it is a submission that will make so that for consideration, even as we move to the next step towards the conclusion of this particular regulations. Now, when it comes to benefit sharing, yes, we have a separate regulation for that. But now, even under this PSFM, you'll find that there's a provision for even the issue of rights. So with that, I think we'll have to look at it so that it also becomes very clear, because now, okay, when it talks about rights, but doesn't talk in terms of monetary terms. But now, what are the kind of benefits that this particular CFS will be able to accrue or realize from the management of this particular forest? But I don't think it mentions really in specific terms, in terms of monetary value or in terms of even the percentages. So it is one thing that we also need to look at and be able to relate the two regulations and see then which one speaks more specifically to that particular element. So now I know about this e-citizen. I know it's really an issue. It's an administrative issue that's really causing a lot of problems, especially when it comes to conservation of forest. And I may not be able to really give a definite response to this, but my wish is that it also really comes out very clearly from now the practitioners, which you are. That is, of course, it remains to be a bottleneck when it comes now the realization of the benefits by these particular communities that are in this conservation space. So I think that will be my response. And lastly, you also mentioned about the financial implication of this particular regulation, which you've agreed according to the regulatory impact statement, is that, of course, there'll be implications in terms of even the publicity and awareness and sensitization, even signing of the agreements. And I would say that we may not be able to run away from that, but we'll see the best way possible where at least we could be able to mitigate against this particular cost, because now we look even at the aspects of sensitization and capacity building. If there are other alternatives of doing that without necessarily having to, say, produce hard materials or even now go straight to the communities out in the field, I think those are some of the measures that we may want to take so that we can see how best we can be able to minimize on the cost expenditure that relates to some of these particular interventions that have to do with the implementation of this particular regulation. So I think with that, I want to end there. And thank you once more for those insightful comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liki. Collins, yes?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I wanted to ask a question. Sorry, I've joined late, so in case it's a question that has already been asked, please pardon me. But my question basically is around, because modern forest management usually rely heavily on data. So I just wanted to know, does the regulatory impact statement include provisions for, a digital transparent monitoring system that will allow conservationists or, stakeholders to use tech, maybe GIS, remote sensing, to report on forest health, and also just to track the equitable distribution of resources in real time? Yeah, so my question is that included in the regulatory impact statement, or is it something that will be considered? Thank you.
Vicky?
Yes, thank you. I think in my presentation of the regulatory impact statement, I think I had mentioned that there will also be costs that will be associated with application of technologies, like as mentioned, things to do with GIS, remote sensing, and the likes. So while the regulations themselves do not specifically address the issues of technology, but I think it is something that is addressed elsewhere, but we anticipate that those are some of the cost implications that we may experience when it comes to implementation of this particular regulation. So yes, I would say that the RIS has sufficiently addressed that as one of the areas that will actually we are meant to encounter some cost implications relating to the implementation of the regulations in the application of this particular technologies. Thank you.
Thank you, and I trust that Collins, you've been answered. And the regulation, the RIS actually speaks to that. Agnes? Agnes, please unmute.
Hello. Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning, everyone. Okay.
Good morning, Agnes.
Okay, thank you. I am Agnes Momburi from Taita Taveta County. I'm doing a project on a multi-sectoral approach towards water catchment, riverbank stabilization in Taita Taveta County, focusing on Voi River. And the Voi River catchment area is in Taita Hills. And of late, we have had our forests being burnt down or wildfires. My question is the regulations you have as a Department of Forestry, apart from the penalty on the aspect of crime and violence against the environment, which I think it is not applicable in Taita Taveta because, in fact, I've been saying maybe we should close down the environmental court in Taita Taveta because the abuse which is going on our environment is really disheartening. Some of us as environmental advocates, we feel like something is not right. And we have a problem of water scarcity. Like I was talking to someone from the CF in Buria, and he told me out of 35 springs, 10 have died. 10 have died because of wildfires, encroachment, logging, illegal, I would say, unregulated utilization of the forest. So for me, is the enforcement of the same, despite whether the forest is within the National Kenya Forest Service, County Forest Service, or community forest. the regulations should cut across so that we will not have an incidence of scarcity of water and depletion of the forest. The other aspect I wanted to ask is the forest, the forest regulations, are they including the farmers? We have community forest associations. Are the farmer groups included? One, to create a buffer zone to mitigate encroachment and logging within the forest areas. I have so much to say, but let me stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. We'll have another session where people can now just highlight what's happening on the ground. And yes, I understand that we have the Nyayo buffer zone policy and also draft laws that are being developed so that they can create buffer zones, particularly on this forest, to prevent that type of encroachment. I'm not sure if this will be incorporated within the FCMA or they will be standalone, but ideally they should be able to speak to each other. And then maybe Liki could respond further than that.
Thank you, Agnes, for those comments regarding the challenges that you're experiencing, especially in your county. And I think I'm in agreement that, yeah, there are challenges because I've also had an experience of being in parts of Taita Taveta, especially the Undani area. And I think one of the major challenges that has been highlighted has to do with the forest fires that are really caused by the communities. And while I agree, of course, that at times there are weak enforcement mechanisms. Yes, there are laws, but sometimes you find that the enforcement is weak. But I feel actually enforcement on its own may not be able to really mitigate against those particular challenges, because you'll find that some of these challenges actually have cultural or traditional origins. And with that, I think what we need more here is actually education and capacity building, because you find that if maybe these farming communities that are around those hilly forested areas, you find that somebody wants to possibly clear or prepare their land for cultivation. So you find that maybe they burn the farm, and then the fire sometimes extends to the forest, or you find that sometimes they go do harvesting of forest products like honey. Then accidentally the fire spills over and ends up consuming the entire. So basically, for me, I feel like this is not so much of an enforcement issue. It's more of education, because we need to build the capacity of these communities and tell them the importance of having this particular forest. We've talked about the challenges of water shortages that we experience because of what's happening around there. So that is what that will be my reaction to that. Now, you also raised an issue of whether these particular regulations are cross-cutting, and I would say that yes, these regulations apply to both public gazetted forests, county forests, as well as what we call those areas that have been identified to be gazetted as a forest, but they're not yet gazetted. So the regulations will really apply to those three particular aspects, and that even the participation of farmers in issues to do with forestry, even outside the CFAs, is another area that I would wish to mention that as we speak, we have just recently, the State Department launched an agroforestry strategy that really addresses issues to do with agroforestry within the farms, amongst the farmers, and also even the provisions of the amendment bill that is already in Parliament for the Forest Management and Conservation Act 2016 also provides for the creation of buffer zones within the farms by the farmers, so that at least we have a section of the farm that is cultivated, but at least we also make provisions for buffer zones that we grow trees. So I think I'll wish to end my response there, and I hope that I've sufficiently addressed the issues that you've raised in relation to those three aspects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Teresia, can I have a rejoinder on the same, if you don't mind? Then you complete with me, please. Just one.
All right.
Okay. Now, on the same, I'm very happy because the highlands have been captured well, and I'm very grateful. I've taken my notes. Number two, the riparian lands along the rivers, and especially this one, because this is my project target area, Voi River, 210 kilometers from the highlands to the Indian Ocean. The riparian lands have been depleted. The indigenous water-friendly trees are no longer there. When I was in the field and talking to the community, I mentioned one tree which we really used to love the fruits. And it's only one tree which has remained and half burnt, because half of it has been harvested. Now, how is the Kenya Forest State Department of the Forest going to help us to restore the forests along the rivers? One, to sustain the riverines. Two, to restore the riparian lands, and also to create a demarcation between the river riparian lands and farmlands to support the same as it is going to be implemented in the highlands. Thank you.
Okay, allow me to respond to that. So this is a subject we could discuss further, and especially with NEMA and KWS and also KFS, it needs a multi-sectoral approach, because there are different government agencies that should be able to come in and also have different roles and responsibilities with regard to riparian areas. So I think this is a subject that requires a multi-stakeholder approach. And under the Kenya Wetlands Forum, we also have the space to be able to actually address this in terms of the riverine and riparian areas. But then Kenya Forest Service will just be one of the agencies that should respond to this, NEMA as well. And we have the Water Resources Authority and several other institutions. Yeah. Liki, you wanted to speak?
Well, I think that has been sufficiently addressed, because you find that when we talk about riparian areas, actually that is kind of outside our mandate as a State Department. But yes, we support the agencies that are mandated to take care of the riparian areas. So I think your response is, I feel, is sufficient, because it has to be addressed from a multi-sectoral perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, allow us to proceed. So we keep, I can see the others on Paylist, as mentioned by Ngatia, and also the other comments on KFS not allocating lands that are particularly rich with biodiversity or otherwise entailing endangered or threatened flora and fauna in the process of allocating plots for management or for forest cultivation. So we'll reflect those in the memorandum so that we ensure that the RIS takes into consideration all of these proposals. So at Joseph, I can see your hand is up. You could,
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Teresa. Good morning, Liki and the team.
Good morning. Is it a question on the RIS or it's a different subject?
RIS, just as a general compliment and also a way forward for my Doto community, because I come from Doto Mountains Range.
Okay.
And we are trying to organize to create a CFA because we've not been having an existing CFA. Our brothers in Nyiro, in Mount Nyiro and Mount Kulal have done it. And I've had you earlier today mention Mount Kulal. One time we organized and we also got some little seed funding from UNDP to protect the water catchment. And the threat is logging by a few culprits within the community to endangered species, endangered trees like red cedar. And we intervened with few community scouts we have. And I've also got in touch with KFS, and we got a unit of like 10 KFS rangers who came to do a camp upstream there in Doto. But you know, the area is huge. It's about 92,000 hectares. Mine is to request to have contact as soon as possible, the office where I can reach, so that we can organize ourselves for a proper CFA. Because after these rangers came, after some time, you know, they were taken back, and the endangered thing there is the red cedar, which has been logged some years back. And as a community, we have done meaningful mass sensitization, giving information for people not to cut trees. But because the scouts are still limited and few, we need as soon as possible to organize the communities and create working groups so that we can spearhead the matter of the CFA. We have the potential because we have the eastern part of the Ndoto Mountain. We are looking at the north, the northwest of the mountain, and southwest of the mountain, which is, we can have three or four working groups, at least, to get one meaningful CFA for the Ndoto Mountain. So I joined this meeting, and I find it insightful and very thoughtful, so that I can get where to go to, so that we move forward to create the Ndoto CFA. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that comment. It is well taken and noted, and we will highlight it in our report and also in the management committee for Kenya Forest Working Group, and see what best could be done to support the process with the relevant authorities. So at this juncture, I'd like to invite Mr. Ngatia Gerald and to thank Liki very much for his time and for his presentation and responses to us. We'll be able to submit our comments by tomorrow. If you have, members, any other comments on the RIS, you can send them to the Secretariat so that they're all reflected in the document that we will share, and you can also submit it as an individual or as an organization. So thank you very much, Liki, and welcome, Mr. Ngatia. You have 10 minutes. We were supposed to end this at 12, so we'll just give you a chance to highlight briefly, and then we could hear from Lucky Kazungu and one more other member or person who'd like to share how they're benefiting economically from our forests. Then from there, if there are any other issues that needs to be raised, we can raise them and then call this a day. Thank you, Liki, and happy International Day of Forests. Karibu, Mr. Ngatia.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ricky and Teresa. Allow me also to switch off my camera because my network is very, very low. Yeah, my name is Gerard Gatian. I work with the National Alliance of Community Forest Associations on NACOFA. We are thankful even to the ministry and also the explanation of the participatory forest management regulations and also the impact the RIS would have on the communities. As he has stated, is that the involvement of communities started in the year 2005 when the then law changed the command and control that was happening in the entire country. That is, management of forests was solely in the hands of the government, the pre-colonial and even the pre-colonial times. But even then, Section 71, as stated, had 21 regulations that were supposed to be done so that to have proper community participation and proper management of forests in line with those laws. But up to those many years, 2005 today, only 8 has been done. And one very crucial one, benefit sharing, has not been activated up to now. And the communities, despite having so many, and the importance of our forests, I think is something that even the ministry and KFS should move a little bit faster. We cannot actually avoid the issue of importance of forests in this country. The issue of water. You cannot have energy, the power, production, hydropower that actually serves in all our industries, all our towns and cities. It cannot happen if we don't have proper sustenance of forests in this country. It holds the economy of this country when you look at forestry, agriculture, rainfall regulation, climate regulation, issues of fuel wood production that goes into our tea industry, goes into our schools, goes into our households, all that depending on how best we manage our forests. Look at the tourism in this country. Without proper management of forests, the tourism sector would actually collapse because it's forests that are the sanctuary of birds and wildlife. The issue of water is critical. Without forests, water, our towns, our cities would actually come to a standstill. So, but all that, the main managers of those forests to make sure that they succeed is the communities. Their indigenous knowledge, the CFAs that have been formed, the water resource organizations that we have in this country are actually the basis of success of management. But the regulations that we see are good because they are recognizing communities, they are recognizing CFAs. But one thing that has been which is not very good, is that previously we saw the questions of heritage. The government is actually becoming an elite, or playing like the big brother, whereby they make regulations, they make decisions without involving the main stakeholders. And many a times you find those communities, despite their efforts in working with the government in sustainable management of forests, they feel the government is not what they do. Dialogue. We have been having so many issues of lack of dialogue. Participatory forest management agreements, participatory forest management plans, where most of them are done by quite later on along the way. The government would just come in, or the ministry and the KFS would actually come in and stop certain activities from going on without even consulting anybody. Right now, we have a very big debate that is going around this country, which the government or the KFS and the ministry have actually come out with the National Youth Service, going into installing them into various forest stations across the country without any discussions, either at the forest station level or even at the national level. Just find a tractor coming in, cutting trees, and some structure being constructed that the National Youth Service is coming in to help in raising seedlings for the 15 billion. The 15 billion has been there for the last. The CFAs have raised the seed. NACOFA has got a list of the CFAs in this country and how much seedlings they have, which have lacked the market. Over that 10 million seedlings are lying and overgrowing in tree nurseries managed by CFAs, and they don't have a market for them. They don't know where to plant them. And another system is coming in of installing National Youth Service to start tree nurseries to raise billions of seedlings without any discussion. Surely, what is how do you describe early capture, whereby the government, the ministry, and the county forester don't see any need to discuss activities on how best the 15 can done. The fees and the rulers own the land. If there are any trees to be raised in this country, they will be planted on private land, because already the forest sector, the forests are already full. And these are the people who we need to discuss with, that we are to bring NYS to assist you to raise seedlings so that they may be planted. If that is not done, where will the seedlings be planted? Who will take care of them? The issues of fire. I've found the Taita Taveta team talking about wildfires. And then they have been there all over the country. But since the CFAs came on board, the issues of wildfires have actually come down. But if you don't involve those communities in decision making, when the fires come on board, come next year or the other year, who will assist the government to report on those fires and to extinguish them? We need that dialogue, not today, yesterday, and even the previous day. That's what has been happening. We have, as NACOFA, we have got a lot of pressure from communities across the whole country, telling us the government does not see the need or does not actually appreciate the efforts that the CFAs have done across over the years, where we had over 40,000 hectares of empty land that has been had been harvested. There is seedlings, they've planted those seedlings, and those 40,000 hectares have actually now almost all of them been planted and taken care of. So what I had to raise is that as a community member, and we have the ear of CFAs and water resource users associations across the whole country. Our CFAs are not happy with how the ministry and the Kenya Forest Service is handling their issues. And we need, with these regulations, we have gone through that regulation. We have gone through the RIS and we have no issues in it. We are saying it's a good document. In actual fact, NACOFA was involved in drafting the regulations. was a part of those drafts. The benefit sharing regulations are already with the ministry, and we are waiting for them to move ahead, because if they don't move ahead, then I think the communities still feel that something is missing somewhere. So in general, I don't want to talk much. Just say that we support the RIS, we support the participatory forest management regulations that are ongoing, with a few issues that have been raised now, if they need to be incorporated. But I would request Ricky, who is representing the ministry, to go and report that we really need dialogue. Information sharing is crucial to have successful management of forests in this country. As we go to the International Day of Forests, that should be one of the issues that come out. Involvement of communities in decision-making and dialogue wherever there is any changes that are going to be made, either in the PFMPs, either in forest management plans, either in bringing in other partners, stakeholders. We need that dialogue. It has to be done. If it is not done, then I think sustainable management of forests in this country will be at complete risk. Enfranchised communities is a dangerous issue for sustainable management in this country. That's my view. That's the view that the communities, as a voice of the communities, that's what they have told me. And that's what we are trying to raise with the Kenya Forest Service. That's what we have been trying to raise with the ministry. And I hope they will take our word and start that dialogue almost immediately. Thank you, Teresa. Not unless there is any questions or comments from your end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngatia, and for putting the emphasis on sustainable forest management has to be principled on consultation and collaboration processes. And we take in the recommendation to have a dialogue with the government. And so maybe this is something KFWG will recommend or will even write to, so that we can be part and parcel of being or a mediator, or even being providing a dialogue platform with all stakeholders in the forest sector, so that those things that are very difficult to address for individuals or institutions are collaboratively addressed and solutions are sustainable. Thank you so much for that. And we also acknowledge the role that communities have played, particularly in restoring degraded forest lands. 40,000 hectares could not have happened just by one institution. So we appreciate the role communities play, and we celebrate that this process has been ongoing in the right direction in terms of creating the regulatory framework. And we also acknowledge from your sentiments that the benefit sharing regulations need to come out as soon as possible. Thank you for that. I'd like to invite Lucky Kazungu just to share with us, from your personal perspective, how have you benefited economically from our forest ecosystems? Then followed by Tulu, then we could come to an end of this session. Lucky, are you able to speak or unmute?
Yes, thank you so much for this opportunity. Am I audible enough?
Yes, you're audible. You could also switch on your camera so that we can see you.
Okay, so my name is Lucky Kazungu, a passionate environmentalist, sustainability champion, and also the founder of Go Green Guns Initiative, a youth-led organization based in Ganze Sub-County, Kilifi County, which works with communities, empowering them to build their resilience against climate change with climate-smart agriculture techniques. We do this by either by 3 main programs where we conduct school and community-based education on matters environment and climate change, as well as we lead in indigenous and timber trees tree planting initiatives, as well as mobilizing these communities to adopt climate smart techniques to ensure that they are resilient to the impact of climate change. So I'm a first beneficiary of forests since I studied a course in plant ecology and environmental science, and mostly my work is either in the forest or dealing with trees. So that is the first thing that I'm benefiting from the forest. Another thing is that I have seen my grandparents who most of them were herbalists, harvesting and timber materials from the forest. This include herbs and also some medicinal trees to manage diseases. And from this, they sell to the sick people and they earn a living from that. Apart from that, also borrowed a leaf from that, and I was trained to be a herbalist, and I've been also doing the same and earning a living from the sale of these herbs. Apart from that, is that coming from the coast, group forests, and 80% of the coastal community depends on either the fishing sector. So, and most of the fish are born in the forest and the mangrove forest. Hence, they control a good number of the activities that these communities depend on. Either there's the fishermen, we have the people who take charge in transporting the fish, and also there are those that take charge in preparing this fish for sale. So all these people depend on the mangroves or the mangrove forest. If there are no mangrove forest, it means that the fishing sector is going to be affected a lot. And if the fishing sector is affected, then it means that a good number or a larger percentage of the communities here will be their livelihood will be affected. So briefly, that is what I wanted to share. I know we've run out of time, but that is what that is what we wanted to share. So we invite everyone who would like to work with us to get in touch with us via our email, either luckyinzaro@gmail.com or Go Green Guns Initiative on social media, where we're going to have a chat and get a chance to work together with you all. Thank you so much. I hope that's helpful and impactful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucky, for giving us a real perspective of how our forests are supporting us economically, and for sharing in particular how mangrove forests are sustaining coastal communities, and without them then they cannot fish and they have no livelihoods, as well as from your own family, and bringing into perspective really that forests support our economies and our livelihoods. I'd like to invite Tulu. Tulu, could you also please share your experience, and then we can take back the floor to members for any other final comments. Tulu, are you able to speak? Unmute and speak. We can't hear you in case you're speaking. Could you? Are you able to speak? We can't hear you.
And I think,
Yes, now we can hear you. Thank you. Please go ahead.
oh, sorry, I'm having a network challenge, and may I excuse my video?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I'm Apollinaire Nyali Tulu. I come from Taita Taveta County, Undan Sub-County. I'm nearby, I come from Ngakofa, Ngangao Community Forest Association, and I've been the secretary. Recently, I'm just practicing conservation within my territory and area of interest. For now, because of time, I think I've had a lot have been discussed in concern to the RIC, and I stand. Sorry for the interruption. I started to cope with the initiative which I've already taken, and in my area of engagement, it's basically concerned on advocacy and the importance of forest. Most basically, what we do the advocacy on the importance of conservation, and recently, as many has mentioned, we have been trimmed in the crisis of wildfires and forest fires. We have not talked about the illegal harvesting. We have not talked about that one, but that is another vice which is affecting us mostly. And what we are doing and what I'm doing now is I'm trying to intervene with the local community and let them understand the importance of forests in perspective to the ownership. The ownership, basically the larger sites is for the Kenya forest, but the bit of it is for the community. I'll make them to understand their interventions so that they can freely participate. Now to the regulatory, I think it's coming to beef up the initiative which we normally do, making them understand economically impact. As I said, I come from Theta Hills. Most of us here, we do practice the dairy farming, and the forest is one of the things which provide us with the ecological conditions, maybe the mvua, the maji, downstreams, and it gives us another initiative of investing and interrogating with the forest so that it can do the harvesting of grass, which is regulated, but in some extent, ukiwa na kiangazi sana, huwa tunasaidika kwenda kuvuna nyasi kwa forest. And kuna pia the herbalists, as one has mentioned, there are some diseases which affects our cattle and animals. And the medicine inapatikana the forest. That is another impact yenye tunasaidika. Pia now the women around here, they were embarked on the basket weavery, but only that is not happening that to extent, but it happened in back wakati ambapo serikali ilipo ban out the use of polythene. Tuliona wanawake wengi walianza kuintervene mambo ya kutengeneza viondo and na ili generate some income out of it. And as the youth, I come from the Taita Taveta Ecotourism Guiding Group. We normally do the tour guiding activities ili tupia opportunity na ya kutembeza. Most of hao watu wenye nakuja kufanya researches, the hiking and the whatever, anything concerning forest, I think we normally get an opportunity ya kupata consent out of it na maisha yanasonga. So the RIS I do support because inatupea another beef beef up ya support the larger side of the conservation side of it. Unajua pia tusipokuwa na sheria, mambo mengine yatakuwa yanafanyika wakiwa wanadhani wanasaidika, but the future now I think it is basically kusaidia the future out of it. So thank you for this opportunity, Madam Teresa, and that is what I can give my input out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tulu, for bringing at least in light why we need the RIS and how it will continue to sustain our forest economies. Indeed, our economies supported by our forests, and therefore we have to conserve them, but also communities have to be given the space to participate in their management. At this juncture, I would like to invite any other member with any other business or an issue they would want the Secretariat to address, particularly on advocacy matters. We've heard about Karura Forest. Is there any representative from Karura Forest? Any representative from Ngong Forest or Kakamega Forest or any other forest that you think requires the attention of the Secretariat and interventions therefore? Please just unmute and speak. We have 5 minutes for this so that we could end by exactly 30 minutes past noon.
Thank you, Madam Teresa. Back to Voi. We had JC Forests in the Kaloleni ward, in the Kaloleni sub-location, Voi location, Voi sub-location, Taita Taveta. This forest has been depleted. Na ni kama watu wameshajigawanyia mashamba. So how is the State Department going to help us recover our forest? We need it because it's the only forest we have within the CBD of Voi town. Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes. You could also share that with us through the KFWG email. Just send a write-up about the current issue, the location, if there are any interventions, if any, and then we'll be able to get back to you on that.
Thank you. I'm just sending a chat on a chat, but I'll also share.
Yes,
I have shared my email address. Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. We may not be able to address all the issues as of now. We just want to capture what's really happening on the ground.
Yes.
Then we'll have another session to now delve into those specific advocacy issues. So thank you for highlighting what is happening on forests around Voi. Any other person apart from those who've spoken? Any other person with an issue? Forest issue that needs to be addressed?
Yeah, I'm back again. So mine have two issues. One of them is Mwangea Hills in Ganza Sub-County, Kilifi County. That has been on the limelight for the past 10 years since degradation started. But currently it is completely degraded and people have demarcated the land. We had the coast water, I'm forgetting the name, but when the Kilifi County government coming in, we had the KFS coming in, but then the efforts were not really fruitful. So currently it's completely degraded. Almost all the water catchment areas stopped flowing, and currently it's in a pathetic state. So that is Mwangea Hills Forest, Ganza Sub-County, Kilifi County. Then another issue is, though this one is very sensitive, concerning Arabuko Sokoke Forest. The people that are engaged with conserving it as the people only around or living adjacent to the forest, which according to a report that I read last time, was that the focus was people who are living in a radius of 5 kilometers from the forest. But then the other people that are living away or maybe more, outside the 5 kilometer radius who are not engaged in conserving the Arabuko Sokoke forest, but then some of them are leading in participating in degradation of the Arabuko Sokoke forest. there is illegal logging going on, there is snaring going on, and other activities are going on. So as Go Green Guns Initiative, we have been really trying to sink the gap and try to save it by finding these people who are living outside the 5-kilometer radius and engaging them on one-by-one sessions. And we've realized that most of them, they have been left out in these alternative livelihood initiatives implemented by the various organizations who are working within the Arabuko-Sokoke Forest and Nature Reserve. So we've been trying to come up with sessions to engage these people, to at least make them aware of the impact that of the degradation activity that they're engaging, and also what alternatives they can adopt and see if they can stop the illegal activities. And with that, we have some success stories. We have like 3 to 5 notorious loggers who are really a headache to KFS officers, and we engage them with other activities. And currently, some of them have adopted goat farming, others have gone to do irrigation farming and stopped illegal logging activity that they used to do within the Arabuko forest. So this is something that maybe when working with or when initiating initiatives that focus with conserving this forest, we should not have a limit on the radius that or the locality that this initiative should work with. We should also extend a little bit far away, maybe from increase the radius from 5 kilometers, maybe to 15 kilometers, to ensure that we have a wider range of people who engage in these conservation activities. And with that, we think we're going to have a really big success in ensuring that our forests are protected, to ensure that they support the various economic activities that we gain from them. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lucky. And to encourage members, as you send in your issues to the secretariat at kfwg@eaylf.org, you could attach any other pieces of evidence you have, pictorial evidence or video evidence of what's going on in your location, so that this enables us to put in light exactly what's happening. Thank you for that, Lucky, and also for highlighting that interventions could be successful, particularly addressing those who are in the center of this destruction. I can see Mr. Murevi Wandeto's hand is up. Maybe you could go last and then we complete.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity. I just want to say that apart from Karura and Gong Road and Gong CFA, where containers are being installed and NYS personnel being deployed, we also have the same in Nyeri, and it's not one station, it's several stations. So there's something that is widespread across the country. And I want to join myself to the sentiments raised by Gerald, that the best practices, and in fact that is also stated in our constitution, is that there should be public participation before such decisions are made. And we hope the ministry will learn from the ongoings in Karura and stop this obnoxious practice, particularly where they also go into our forests and cut down trees in order to establish nurseries. I think that doesn't make any common sense at all, to cut a mature forest in order to establish a nursery. And I think I will add there, because possibly, I mean, that is an issue that will require more intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that is well noted. If you could get a list of all these forests that this is ongoing, then we can be able to highlight them in the letters we'll send out as we seek dialogue on this issue extensively beyond Karura Forest. So members, at this point, I would like to appreciate you for your patience and for your active participation in this session. As Kenya Forest Working Group, we have a strategic plan that we are seeking partners to support the implementation, and we are here to be able to support our members in participating in sustainable forest conservation and management through providing a lobby and advocacy platform that takes in all the stakeholders, multi-sectoral, whether it's government, whether it is civil society, private sector, communities. KFWG is a safe space for each and every person to participate. So I want to say a very big thank you from each and every one of you, and also to see if we have any of our old members to give us a vote, our last words. I can see Tekla has been here. She could give us closing remarks, and then we can call it a day. Thank you. Tekla? Tekla, are you able to unmute and speak? You could give us the closing remarks. If not, I can see Benson is here and even Peter Koch. Are you able to unmute and speak? If not, then I give the last word to Mr. Ngatia Gerald, who has also been a member since time immemorial. Please give us your closing remarks and we'll meet again in the next session.
I'll say thanks a lot to Teresa, Kenya Forest Working Group and East African Society for bringing us together once again. This has been a very good tradition that has been going on since the year 1996, when we had a lot of problems in our forests, and the teams brought us together and we were able to do something. And also bringing the ministry. We also thank Kiriki for taking us through the RIS and the regulations, and also representing the ministry. So I think personally, having been a member of Kenya Forest Working Group for so many years, and the works that has been done over the years, we are also very thankful, and also thank you for keeping us highlighted in upcoming issues at all the times. We hope that these webinars will also bear a positive result in future. So thanks a lot for everybody who have come on board, and also pass our greetings to the East African Society fraternity and the Kenya Forest Working Group for us. Thanks a lot. May God bless you.
Thank you, and God bless you too. Goodbye and enjoy your International Day of Forest on 21st of March. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.